no clue how to do any excuse of redstone, and I had only 2 hours to try and figure something out, and at the end, I have to show something for it! I wanted my final product to be some sort of massive piston door, so I grabbed literally every redstone component I could find and got to work. I started off by producing a flying machine, as I already knew how to make one of those due to my own single-player city. I tried to turn it sideways and make it wide, and yellow! But after a little bit of trial and error, I somehow constructed, this wacky thing. Which, like, yeah, you know, didn't work, in the slightest. How does this help me with my end goal? Well, you've got as much clue as I do. But I eventually got my little plane working as intended, and then after forcing some villagers onto it, I realized I was running out of time. So I stopped messing around with flying automobiles and got to work. My idea was that I'd construct an 8x8 piston door for my final product, using a flying machine on the bottom to make half of the doors go up, and using a flying machine on the top to make the top half of the doors go down, which means that practice with that aeroplane wasn't entirely useless after all, and this would create a really cool looking piston door. I outlined the 8x8 area, and then after realizing that blackstone would need to be obsidian, I dug out an area for the mechanisms of the machine, and then erected the flying machine previously shown, from this cursed excuse of an aeroplane. But I couldn't have the door looking like this, so I slapped slime to the side of it and made it half honey, half slime to reduce the amount of blocks on the piston push limit. And then I attached some green wool to the side of it, and then let it fly. Which it did! This acted as a little bit of a proof of concept, if you will. So after making the frame 1 block bigger to make it look like I actually knew how big this thing was going to be, and after inflating my ego further by showing it once again actually worked, I duplicated the same concept, but alternating between honey and slime blocks, as in case you don't know, honey blocks and slime blocks won't stick to each other, but they will still stick to ordinary blocks. I also duplicated this pattern at the top of the build, and it was at this point I figured I'd pretty much cracked it. All I needed to do was power the observers at the top of the bottom, and the doors would slam together, and I'd be able to construct the door with plenty of time to spare. You see, if it was an ideal world, that would have worked. Yes, I connected up pistons to both above and below the pistons to update the observers, hooked them all up to these pressure plates, and took extra care to make sure they're both at the right timing. And as we've seen due to my proof of concept, this does work! In individual segments. But altogether, well, as you can clearly see, it could have gone better. I used good old trial and error to attempt to figure out what on earth went wrong with my finalized piston door. At first, I thought it would be because the honey blocks and slime blocks were connecting to the observers and pistons, but I also realized shortly afterwards that it would be a stupid idea if they were all timed correctly, which, by the way, they are. Then, if they are timed correctly, they would all move up together, which they obviously still aren't! But then I clocked it. The piston push limit was reached. As the second I removed the lime wool, all of the pistons started rising to the surface, directly into the stuff above it! So after this mess, I tried to reactivate the bottom parts of the system by building yet another blimming system to activate it! And after that failed miserably, I just smashed up the entire system and rebuilt it. But seriously struggled with attempting to make both segments of the door. I was able to make the bottom of it rise upwards with ease, but it was a matter of getting it back down. And that ended up being a real head scratcher. I was able to get the bottom half to work by going up and down. And so, I came up with a bright idea of, quote-unquote, pretending that the plan all along was to make an 8x4 piston door! Improvise, adapt, overcome. And that I did. I had a working system for the flying machines, and I now needed to simply combine them together. I raised up the pressure plates, and would you look at that! The system goes both up and also goes down! So I tried adding some blocks to it, which, as if I hadn't already learned, went over the piston push limit. So I slapped some quartz stairs onto it, and then it was all finished. Well, the door anyways. So I added some extra mumbo-jumbo around the area to cover up the redstone mechanism, and also to flex my overwhelming wealth. And then my final product was done, with only minutes to spare. You can close the door to block off any entrances, and then you open it, as it doubles up as an elevator. What's that? Oh yeah, you know what to do. Oh, and the door can also double up as a trampoline. Woo! And what if you go inside of the door? You find this place, which tells you exactly what you need to do right now. Woo!